Okay. So today class is about how to build the microservices using the .NET 9 and how we can use the Docker and the Kubernetes. Because when it is coming to building the microservices, many people are confused how to use the microservices architecture. They're thinking what are the traditional architecture they're following using the N-tier architecture, using the N-layer architecture. They having a wrong perception about they actually using the microservices. If you having the doubt, that confusion, today you will get the answer. So just stay with me at the end of the session, and I will assure you you're going to get everything how to build your next .NET application using the .NET 9, using the Microsoft Azure, and using the Docker and Kubernetes. Everything we are going to discuss about here. So first get started with what are the microservices. So when it is coming to microservices, I'm going to share a PPT with you so that you having the clarity about it. I hope everyone can see my screen. Just do confirm everyone. Okay, thank you for the confirmation, everyone. Many people are joining us from the old batch. Thank you. You have joined us again. I appreciate your time. And trust me, the today class, you're going to learn about the things, whatever you're thinking. So now let me open here the things here. So let me get started with the microservices first. So when it is coming to the microservices, first need to understand the need of the microservices. Why everyone is talking about the microservices? Because when it is coming to building any enterprise grade application, even what are the application you are using in your daily life, whether you are using the Meta based project like we have in the Instagram, we have in the Facebook, whether you are using the Netflix or any other OTT platform, whether you are using a cloud platform like it can be Microsoft Azure, it can be the AWS, it can be the Google GCP, such big website or such big platform are based upon the microservices architecture. Even wherever you will go for the interview in the 2025, you will find out there is a common requirement that every company having in a job. You must know the microservices architecture. The reason behind it, what are the existing application we having? Let's take the example of any bank website like we having the SBI bank, we having the let's say PNB bank, we having the bank in outside the India as well. So such banking based application, they are moving their existing infrastructure to the cloud, and they are just thinking about to scale them, so that if one of the component of the system is not working, it should not impact the complete system. Because what happens in a traditional the architecture, if one of the things is not working, so major part of the application is going to impact, but the microservice is going to handle the things well. So that's why everywhere all the companies are thinking about to upgrade their application to the microservices architecture. So first understand how the things are going to start it. Before starting the things, let me introduce to myself in brief. So my name is Shailen Chauhan. I'm the founder and CEO of Scholarhead. I'm the Microsoft MVP from the last 9 years. I'm a corporate trainer for the IBM, Cognizant, Dell, and many other top tech companies. There I'm keep doing the training where I'm going to train them how to build the full stack .NET application, the microservices based architecture, how to implement using the .NET, using the Angular, using the Microsoft Azure. These are the training I'm constantly doing with the IBM for many years. I have written many interview question answer books which are available on the .NETix.com. I have written many articles which are available on scholarhead.com. I'm having more than 15 years of experience of consulting, development, and the corporate training program. So this is about me in brief. So let's get started with the today session. So as I mentioned here, before looking at how the microservices the companies are going to adopt, let's look at the history. How we started the project development. So we having the evolution of the computing. So initially, when it is coming to started with the project development, we follow the waterfall model as a development process where we get the requirement and we freeze it. And after that, we start working on the project. This way we build the things. Just hold on. I think someone is trying to note. Let me disable it. Okay, now it's fine. At that time, we follow the monolithic architecture for building the things. For the deployment, we having the physical server, we having a bigger physical machine. There we do the deployment of the application. When it is coming to setting up the data center, so data center we set up over there, we need a bigger space because that time the size of the hardware was big. Remember before at the time of 90s, we having the bigger desktop, we having the bigger machine at that time. Even if I taking the example of the hard drive as well, so hard drive size is very big, even for the 256 GB itself. But nowadays the sizes are going to shrink when it is coming to the in the today world right now. After that, we started to following the development process agile. Even still we are using the agile for the requirement gathering and as a part of the development process. We are using right now still anti architecture. We are using the service oriented architecture. Even we are using the REST architecture as well. So we are using the mini architecture for building the application. I'm sure what are the project you might be building right now, it might be based upon either anti architecture, either on the service oriented architecture. I'm sure you might be using the virtual machine for the deployment because we don't need a bigger physical machine right now. A bigger physical machine we can easily subdivide into the various virtual machine. So virtually we can emulate the hardware through the VMware. We having the VMware, we having the Oracle VirtualBox. So we having the many tool through that a VM can be created easily. And in the isolated environment, we can run our services together. Because the ultimate goal of the deploying the application as separate machine is we need the isolated environment. So when it is coming to isolation, so virtual machine is capable to provide the isolated environment for the application. So that is the way how we are doing the deployment still. For the hosting, we don't need much space. Even if you have visited your company data center, inside the company data center, you will find out we having a one room over there, and there they set up the rack of the the hardware, and there they set up the data center. So in a smaller space, it is possible to set up the data center nowadays. But when it is coming to the latest trend, in the latest trend, for the development process, we are using the DevOps. So DevOps is a new development style where Agile is also the part of the DevOps, and we having the various development tools also. You might be using the Jenkins, you might be using the Azure pipeline, you might be using the Jira, you might be using the many other tools for the project planning, for the CI/CD pipeline, and doing the other things over there. For the architecture, we are preferring the microservices based architecture. And when it is coming the deployment and the packaging, we are using the containers. So as a containers, we are using the Docker, we are using the Kubernetes because Docker is a container platform which is helping us to build the images of the application. And the Kubernetes is a platform which is helping us to run the multiple container together. Then for the infrastructure, we are preferring the cloud because cloud providing us just so many things which are not possible to set up as a in the on-prem environment. Even in the cloud on demand, we can scale the system at any moment. Even we don't need to do any the investment in the advance. Because when it is coming to setting up a data center, it's a Investment. A company has to invest 1 CR, 2 CR like amount to set up a data center because they need to purchase the hardware, they need to take care of the maintenance of the building, they have to take care of the electricity supply, even they have to take care of the manpower who is going to manage those hardware for taking the regular backup, for doing the proper configuration. So we have to invest in the hardware, we have to invest in the manpower, we have to invest in the other facility to run our data center smoothly. So instead of putting that much of amount in upfront, not on demand, like on the subscription model, you have to pay upfront. Better option is here, use the cloud. Because in the cloud, you're paying the things on a subscription model. You're paying there only for the users. So this is the latest style everyone is now adopting, whether it is a we having the service based company, like we having the Infosys, we having the Wipro, we having the Cognizant, whether we having the product based company also, even IBM is also doing the same thing. They are using the Azure cloud also, they're using the AWS cloud as well. They are using the multiple cloud in one application also. This is the way we having the things over there. So I hope you having the now clarity where we are right now when it is coming to the technology, when it is coming to the architecture, when it is coming to infrastructure. So everyone should think about the DevOps. Everyone should think about the microservices. Everyone should think about the containers and the cloud. Without these technologies, you cannot think about to build the latest application. Even what are the enterprise get application you are using on the daily basis, or your company is planning to build. Without these things, they cannot build. Now let's move to the next thing. The next thing we have in the microservices. What are the microservices? So when it is coming the microservice, so many people having a perception microservice means it is a service, but that is not a right one. Microservice means there is a one small unit. It can be a backend service. It can be a front-end unit, which is going to help us to solve a specific problem. Are you having a component inside the system? You have written to solve a specific problem that having a specific responsibility. Just take an example. I'm going to build a e-commerce application. So whenever you're building an e-commerce application, in the e-commerce application, we have to find out what are the various subdomain we having inside that e-commerce domain. If you look at the example, the various subdomain we having there, we having the order management, we having there the authentication management, we having their payment management, we having their catalog management. So around these subdomain, we have to design a unit. And to that unit, we are calling the microservice. And usually when we designing these unit, we designing as a backend service where you might be using the web API, whether there you might be using the WCF. So usually for taking the example of the latest .NET, in the latest .NET, we build such backend services using the web API, of course. And when it is coming to the front end part, so front end part we build using the ASP.NET Core MVC, or we might be building using the Angular and React. So this is the way the unit, whatever you are building to solve a specific problem, to that unit you are calling the microservice. I hope it is clear to everyone. So when it is coming to microservices, microservices are independent. Microservices even don't have any dependency on a particular technology stack also. It means the most important benefit of the microservices architecture is, especially the big tech companies are taking, they don't need to rely on a particular technology stack. Just take an example, Microsoft is a company that is completely based upon the .NET. If I taking the example of the Microsoft Azure, if I taking the example of Bing, if I taking the example of what are the game they having, even MS Office, whatever they having complete backend of the .NET. But take example, Microsoft acquired the LinkedIn. LinkedIn is not using the .NET. LinkedIn is using the JavaScript based things. They having the complete Node.js based style behind the scene. If we take taking the example of GitHub, GitHub is also not using the .NET behind the scene. They're using the Go language. They're using the many other things. They are also behind the ChatGPT, GitHub Copilot. So what are the OpenAI company? You heard about the OpenAI. So OpenAI is a company that made the ChatGPT. And Microsoft having the 49% stake in the OpenAI company. So OpenAI, what are the product the OpenAI company is building that is not based upon the .NET? They might be using Python, they might be using the some another languages as well. But .NET, but Microsoft is not going to worry about it. Because what are the product Microsoft is having? Microsoft having the MS Office 365, Microsoft having the Windows 11, even they are working on the new product as well. So the best thing with the microservices architecture is you can build any component inside the system using any technology. It means if inside the system you having the 500 plus microservices, 1,000 plus microservices. Because if I take in the example of Microsoft Azure platform, they having more than 1,000 of services. So one service they might build using the .NET language, one service they might build using Python, one service they might build using the Rust language. So they're free to use any language. They don't have any dependency. This is the beauty of the microservices architecture. That's why every big tech company is focusing more on the microservices architecture because they're going to acquire the startups, they're going to acquire the other companies' product so that they can add the features, the value into the existing product so that they're able to sell. Because for taking the example of MS Office is not a new product for Microsoft. MS Office, the Microsoft is selling from a decade because MS Office was the first product, was the first project the Microsoft started. Then after that, they started the another invention as well. But still, Microsoft is inventing the MS Office so that they will be the leader in the MS, they will be the leader in the office, document management. So same thing every company is following now. I hope you having the clarity because many people think about building the smaller services about the microservices, but they don't know the intention behind it, why companies are preferring. So preference is technology independence. We have to think about here. Simple. Of course, Jayaprakash, when it is coming to managing this smaller unit, we need to hire a big team of the developers. You might having, let's say, in the traditional project architecture, you having, let's say, 4 people. If the same architecture will move to the microservices, so team can be 3x or 4x, depending upon how many unit you have designed over there and how you're going to manage. So manpower you have to increase. Even you have to increase the infrastructure cost as well. So microservices is not a architecture you have to implement in a small application. Let me take the example of the Stack Overflow. I'm sure everyone aware of the stackoverflow.com. It is a website used by the developers across the world. So when it is coming to stackoverflow.com, it is not using the microservices architecture. It is using the traditional N-tier architecture. And that is perfectly fine. Even if I take the example of our own edtech platform, so we having the Scholarhead, it is an edtech platform which we have built on the top of Microsoft Azure, where we are using the ASP.NET Core 9, we are using the React and others, but we are not using the microservices architecture. The reason behind it, we are not generating so much revenue from the software. We are not generating the revenue, every minute or every second. We don't have the user base in billions. Because if you're taking the example of the Netflix, the X.com, we having the Instagram, such website having a big traffic. They having the traffic in millions and billions. And the user are spending on the daily basis 3 hours, 4 hours time. But do you think are you spending 3 hours, 4 hours time on the stackoverflow.com or on the scholarhead.com like learning platform? Of course not. Nobody interested to in learning, nobody interested to doing the things constantly for 4 to 5 hours. But for the entertainment purpose, you are ready to give your 4 to 5 hours of the daily basis. The example is Netflix. The example is any other OTT platform. So we have to think about the so many factors which will help you to decide whether I should go ahead with the microservice architecture, whether I should not go ahead. That understanding is very, very important about it. I hope that things are clear to everyone. Am I right? Of course, Jayaprakash, you have to think about to deciding the number of subdomain inside the project you're going to handle. Then around the subdomain, you have to decide the number of microservices over there. Okay. And one more thing you have to keep in the mind, if you are working on a project and you want to figure out whether it's a project based upon the microservice architecture, whether we are following the traditional NTR architecture, just assess your project based upon these microservices principles. Because when it is coming to any project assessment, just assess your project using these microservices principles. First principle is here modeled around the business domain. So you have to figure out, are we making the component inside the system around the business domain? As I've given the example for the e-commerce application, do you have the the services around the business domain like authentication management, we having the payment management, we having the order management, we having the stock management, we having the other things. So identify, do you have such separation as per the domain you having inside the system? Second, practice you must implement that is a culture of automation. Because when it is coming to big tech companies, even you have seen we having the website for the X.com, we having for the beta and others, they keep providing the update to their application. Even sometime you experience they are providing the updates twice in a week. So it is not possible to provide such frequent updated until we will not implement, until we will not automate our build, until I will not automate the releases. So how we can automate the build of the system, the release of the system? You have to implement the CI/CD. You have to implement the DevOps practices. So you have to always implement the DevOps practices end to end so that if you having the 500 plus microservices, we can automate the build, we can automate the releases because as a human being, everyone do the mistake. We cannot avoid that mistake. So to avoid the mistake, think about the automation. Then we having about the implementation detail. As I said in the microservices, it is not necessary all the services you have to build using the one technology stack. As I mentioned, one service you might build in Python, another service you can build using Java, another service you can build using the .NET. So that is a possibility. So we don't care about how we are implementing that component of the system. It can be implemented using any technology over there. Then next we having decentralize all the things. These are most important things because when it is coming to decoupling, let's say this is a complete system is it is tightly coupled until I will not decouple it. It will not be independent. So to make it independent, we have to decouple this tightly coupled system. So decoupling is important. How the decoupling can be done? Whenever you're creating each microservice separate database. Let's say we having authentication service having its own database. We having the order management service having a separate database. We having the payment management service having a separate database. So we have to decentralize the database so that when you are deploying the one service, so independently of the second, I can do the deployment of it. It is not impacting this service. Same way, when I'm doing deployment of this service, it is not impacting the another one. So we have to think about the decentralization. And when it is coming to decentralization of the things, it is not possible until you will not learn the microservices design patterns. Because the microservices architecture is about the various design practices and the patterns implementation. Many people might be thinking, even some people are asking here, how it is possible. Of course, initially the things are not easy. Many people think building the API is about microservices. No, it is not at all. People are not knowing the proper architecture of the microservices, because microservices is all about implementing the various patterns and practices. I will share in the upcoming slide what are the various patterns and practices we have around each concept, so that you will follow these all the principles well into your project. Then we having the deploy independently. So deployment can be independent if the things are decentralized. If the things are not centralized, everything is tightly coupled, I cannot deploy them independently. Then we having the isolate failure. So isolate failure is possible if the things are loosely coupled again. So loose isolate failure deployment independent is possible when you will implement the decentralized into the system. Then you have to think about high observability, because when it is coming to having such complex system where you having the 500 plus microservices, just take an example of the Amazon. You are placing an order. So just look at the Amazon order placement system. When you're placing the order, do you think the Amazon or Flipkart is going to confirm your order immediately? Just recall, of course not. Amazon takes some time to confirm your order. After the receiving the payment, they place your receive order detail into a queue. From the queue, a order service will read the message, then it plays the order. Then you get the your order has been confirmed successfully. Because they are behind the scene, multiple services are working together. So I need to trace the necessary information where the things are going to break over there. So how I can do? I need to observe this workflow at each and every stage. If I will not observe, I am not able to roll back the transaction. I'm not able to figure out at which stage the order has been failed. That is also the challenges we having. That's why in the microservices architecture we implement the saga pattern. You might heard about the saga pattern. Similar way to deal with the every situation is microservice, we having the various patterns and practices that you need to understand and you have to implement them. Then only you will be able to build a complete microservices based architecture. I hope the things are clear to everyone. Of course, Jagdish, the microservices based project is only suitable for the big project, not for the smaller one. As I have given you the example, we having the scholarhead.com. This project we have built using the modular monolithic architecture. So we are designing the project in such a way in future, if we will have a big tech platform in India, where we are serving the millions of users on the daily basis, that time we will implement definitely microservices architecture. Because right now we are not generating much revenue from the scholarhead.com, where I have to invest a lot in infrastructure. Unnecessary, I'm increasing my infrastructure cost at least 4x. Right now, we already spending around 40,000 per month for running this big platform. If I will introduce the microservices architecture, my cost would be at least 3x to 4x. So I have to pay around 1,60,000 per month for running the same application, whatever I'm running, only at the cost of 40,000 per month. This is the only the infrastructure expense I'm telling to you. Apart from this, I have to increase the developers as well inside my team. That is again another cost over there. So to a small project, never implement a microservice architecture. It is only for the big tech companies. Clear to everyone? Shrikant, when it is coming to it is suitable for all type of application. No, I'm not agree on this point because traditional clean architecture, traditional anti architecture is also suitable for a smaller application. We should not avoid that thing. Microservices are only suitable for the big project, complex project, where you're generating the revenue in millions and billions, even you having the also the traffic in millions and billions. For the smaller project, we having the other approaches where we should reduce the running cost of the application because I'm not in favor of unnecessarily increasing the running cost of the application in terms of infrastructure, in terms of manpower. Even no company will like it. Every company always try to optimize the cost in terms of management, right? Only the companies who are generating the revenue in millions and billions, they are caring about to serve the customer. They are caring about to target the large audience. Am I right? So we have to think about this thing as well. It is not about always the heavy traffic because the Stack Overflow also having the heavy traffic. They also having the traffic in millions. But in the stackoverflow.com, look at the content they are serving to the customer. It is a complete static content. Do you think you are subscribing for any Stack Overflow service on every minute? But the same thing we having with Netflix, where every minute they are getting the subscription across the world. So they're generating a big revenue. Take the example of many other companies. If they will go down only for 1 minute, they will having the losses in millions. But do you think the Stack Overflow will down for 1 minute, they will have the losses in millions? No, of course not. So we having this so many factors. I'm not saying this is the only factor you have to think about. You have to consider the so many factors. We having the various factors based upon that we take the decision whether we should go ahead with the microservices, whether we should go ahead with the clean architecture or anti architecture. Even we having the modular monolithic architecture as well. We having the so many architecture which you need to know to get started with it. Even what are the practices you might be following in the microservices architecture, you can follow in the traditional architecture as well. It's not the case I cannot use the API gateway in my old application. I cannot use the message broker over there. Everything can be done. It is not the case the microservices practices you cannot use in your existing project. Of course, you can use over there. But don't think that is a complete microservices based architecture. It is just you are following some of the practices from the microservices architecture to make it better. So it means by knowing the microservices will help you to manage your existing application in a more better and independent way. So that your project, your system will be ready for future. From this perspective as well, also the people are learning the microservices. I hope it is makes sense to everyone. So now the question is here, what are the microservices, various patterns and practices we have been, and how we can think about to convert existing ASP.NET Core entire application to microservices. Just look at this diagram. In this diagram, if you will see, we have built a UI layer using the ASP.NET Core. You having a business layer where we having the various subdomain, like we having the catalog, we having the authentication, we having the order for the data access layer, we having the a done layer over there. There we having the database. So this is the way we build a traditional and-tier application. You might be using the clean architecture over there, but the same application, if you will decompose into the microservices architecture, it is going to decompose like this way. You have to first identify the various subdomain inside the system. So what are the various subdomain? The various subdomain we have in the catalog, where we have to create a separate database. We have in the authentication separate database. We have in the order management separate database, and we have in the many more other services also. I have not mentioned all the list. I just mentioned a smaller one. And how internally they will communicate to each other? They will communicate to each other using the event bus, where we having the RabbitMQ, there we having the Kafka, there we having the Azure Service Bus. Using that, the communication will happen over there. Even the UI part, we can decompose into the, let's say, the shopping website that is only for end user. Then we will have an internal support website. If you're doing any update to the support website, so it will not impact the user facing website. You might having the mobile application also, you might having the desktop application also. So this way we have to decompose our system into the smaller unit, so that we can develop them independently, we can deploy them independently. Even one of the things are going to fail inside the system, it is not impacting the complete system of my company. So I will not have a much loss inside it. This is the way we need to think about it. Simple. This is a more typical architecture we having. As I mentioned, today I'm going to tell you how we should think about a microservice architecture you might be building using Docker and Kubernetes. You can think like this way, where we having, let's say, the identity microservice, catalog microservice, we having the basket microservice. Even you are free to use the multiple databases as well. So depending upon the requirement, which type of data you're going to manage, think about the various type of database as well. Think about the SQL database, NoSQL database, Redis cache. So think about those things. Redis cache you can think about. For the event bus, we having the Kafka, RabbitMQ, Azure Service Bus. For the front end, you should think about the mobile application, desktop application. We having the traditional web application, a single page application. This is the way we having the things. Naresh, Kafka is about the, we having the, in place of Azure services, we can use over there. It is a message broker. As a message broker, you can use Kafka, which we use to initiate the communication with the application component to each other. Okay. And Kafka is from the LinkedIn. Okay. And these are the various microservices patterns we have. Like you can think about Kafka can be used as RabbitMQ because it is more than the RabbitMQ. So these are the patterns and practices everyone should learn. So learning the microservices not easy, because whatever the sample, whatever the tutorials you have look at over the internet, they only talking about just build a backend API, just connect them through the API gateway and just expose it. Your microservice architecture ready. Trust me, that is not a microservice architecture. Just stay like a entire application you have built. Some of the practices of the microservices you have just adopted, and you are just saying it's a microservice architecture. No, it is not. Microservice architecture means you are following these many patterns, like decomposition pattern at the time of decision making, how many services we should have inside the system, how we should integrate them together. We have to think about the API gateway pattern. We have to think about the client side UI composition pattern. Because at the client side as well, we are using the React, we are using the MVC, we are using the Angular, multiple UI option we have. For the managing the database level things, we having the shared database pattern, CQRS pattern, Saga pattern we having. For the communication pattern, we having the request reply, we having the event driven, we having the request response pattern. Then for managing the cross-cutting concern, we having the service discovery pattern, circuit breaker pattern. Then we having the observability patterns to observe the things. For the deployment, we having the many options. So microservices is all about these many things over here. Ashutosh, when it is come to Saga pattern is helping us to open a transaction across the multiple microservices. Let's take an example of the order workflow at the Amazon. In the order workflow at the Amazon, we having a card service, we having a payment service, we having there a order service. So in the card service, you have added the card, then payment service for collecting the payment detail. Then when the payment will confirm, it will further process the order service. When the order service will place the order, it will go to the vendor for managing that particular order. So there is a sequence of action we have. Now, in this sequence of action, if one of the action is failing, how we can roll back? So we need a saga of transaction so that if one of the stage something is failing, it will roll back. This is about the saga pattern. I hope it is clear to everyone. Ankush, of course, if you are a full stack .NET developer and you are thinking about the microservices, this course definitely will help you to do the things, because when it is coming to the microservice architecture, it is mainly used for building the big application, big tech companies. Even if you're looking for the higher salary, a better salary, only the big tech companies are offering you the salary. Where we having the big project, like we having the OTT like platform, we having the social media like platform. So if you're targeting the Fortune 500 companies, like we having Microsoft, we having a Google, we having the Adobe, we having the IBM, we having the TCS. So for such companies, you need to know the microservice architecture, because they are targeting the big clients in IT industry or from the any other industry. So they are talking about the microservice implementation over there. Guys, every patterns I cannot tell you today because we having the so many patterns over there. And as I promise, I will tell you here how to get started with the project over there. But looking at the time, we don't have the much time over there. I'm just showing you a simple example how the people are building the things. So I'm going to just get started with my Visual Studio. I'm just quickly going to set up a project using the microservices. And one service I will add there for your help so that you having the clarity over there. So what I'm doing here, I'm just going to create a blank solution. And inside the blank solution, I will add the things one by one over there. Faisal, if you're working with the .NET Core MVC, of course, microservices should know, because microservices is all about the practices and patterns. It is not related to a technology because everywhere, whenever you're working on a big project, you have to use the things. Let's say I'm giving my project name is eShopflix app. And I'm giving the location as a location wise. Let's say it is a weekdays I'm using, then click on it. This is the way I'm just creating. I have created a simple solution. And think about a scenario. You having only one team. And as a one team, you have to handle the everything. So I'm assuming we having only one team that is going to manage all the microservices inside the system. So how we should think about? We should think about the multiple section over there. So that I'm going to divide here. So let's say we having the backend services. I'm just going to add a one folder for it. Then I'm adding here another folder for the front end services. So we having the front end services over there. Then I'm having a one more folder that I'm having for the API gateway. So I'm adding here one more thing, that is a API gateways. Yeah. Because we can have multiple API gateways. If you will look at the PPT which I shared with you, we don't have only one API gateway, because in microservices we should not think about the single point of failure. We cannot have a single point of failure. We need to have the multiple API gateway. Let's say one API gateway they having, this is another API gateway they having, even they having the backend for front end as well. So we having the multiple API gateway. So we can have over there. That's why I'm having the things over there. So now in the backend service, I'm just simply adding a new service. And of course, when you are going to write a code for a backend service, you should implement the clean architecture. But today we don't have the much time. Like I cannot implement everything in 2 hour session. I'm just straightforward going to add the web API. But when you will write the real code, you should implement a clean architecture. So I'm simply adding the web API because we don't have much time. I'm just simply adding a simple one. I'm just adding here a catalog service. It is a catalog service. I'm just going to add here now. Then wherever we having the solution, in the solution, I'm just adding a folder for the backend services because folder structure we have to manage properly. We having the backend services folder, we having the front end services folder. So we having the front end services folder, then we having the API gateways. I'm deciding it. Three folders I have added. Inside the backend services folder, we will add all the backend services. So first backend service I'm adding, and this service name is catalog service, like this way. As I said, I'm using the straightforward API, but you should implement the clean architecture for it. We added it. Then we having the next button of it. Then we having the authentication none, and that's fine. So might be thinking just a simple ASP.NET Core Web API. Of course it is, because as I already mentioned, microservices is all about patterns and practices implementation. If you know how to implement the patterns, where to implement the patterns, you able to deal it. And it is not easy. It is very much complex. People don't know how to deploy the thing using Docker and Kubernetes, how to think about the CI/CD, how to think about the security, how to think about the service discovery. People don't know how to actually implement with the project. It's a one service we have added. Similarly, for the API gateway, I will add API gateway over here. So here I'm just going to add API gateway. And again, I'm adding a ASP.NET Core empty project. I'm just adding here. So this is my ASP.NET Core empty project I'm adding. And as a Ocelot API gateway I'm using. So I'm going to use here Ocelot API gateway. So it is not a simple ASP.NET Core application. I'm going to use here the Ocelot API gateway. For that, I'm building the things here now. I already mentioned the beginning, the recording of the session we are not going to offer to you. Please stay with me till end of the session so that you will get everything. Because you are just learning live. I'm just taking your queries as well. I'm going to answer you as well. So here for using the Ocelot API gateway, I'm just going to add here a JSON file. So let me add here a JSON file. It is a ocelot.json I'm adding. Because we need to define the routing. Because when it is coming to building the project for a microservices, so project we should build for the microservices like this way. I'm just showing the example. Let's say this is a project we having for the e-commerce application. This is a microservices based project I'm having, and where we are going to implement the project architecture like this way. Think about the things like this way. So we will have the authentication service, catalog service. I'm just taking the example of this catalog service itself. We will have the API gateway where I'm using the Ocelot one. And this deployment should be done on AKS cluster. It is in Azure Kubernetes cluster. And for the internal communication, it's using the Azure Service Bus like this way. So we are going to build the things like this way over there. So I'm just taking the same example here now. And for the Ocelot one, we need to download some of the NuGet packages. So now let me download here some of the NuGet packages. I'm going to manage the packages here. Just browse them. I'm just browsing for Ocelot. So this is a NuGet package I'm going to install. It is for Ocelot. I'm just going to use there now. Vikas already mentioned it depends upon how many teams you having. If you're having one team, so it is fine to have everything in one project. If you're having the multiple team, of course, they will have the multiple solution for it. So depending upon the project size, they can have multiple solution. They can have the single one as well. So to keep the things into single one also fine, because as a one team, they able to work. But if you are willing to separate the code base as well, so that one team cannot look at the other team code base, you can make them separate as well. So in the real world, people are using both the practices. How the team size they have and how they are managing the things. It will be decided based upon the team size and others. So I'm installing here the OC API gateway NuGet package. Now I need to install here the things for the. Now I'm going to set up inside the program.cs file. Inside the program.cs file, we having a simple hello world setup. Now let me just add here a JSON file setting. So I'm just going to add a builder dot services. Then I'm just going to add here a JSON file. So here I'm just going to add JSON file. So file should be come here using the configuration builder dot configuration add JSON file. So what is my JSON file name? It is here ocelot dot JSON. This is my file name. Now I need to define the ocelot as a service dependency, because when it is coming to ASP.NET Core, whatever the dependency you're going to use, you have to register it as a service dependency. Same thing I'm just adding here ocelot as a service dependency like this way. Add the missing namespace here, add ocelot. Now before the run method, because this is the last statement to end the request, I'm just going to add here a middleware app.use ocelot gateway is a middleware. This is a middleware setup I'm doing for the ocelot one simply. Then in the ocelot.json, I need to define the routing, because if you look at this picture, we having these many backend microservices. So we never expose the n number of endpoint to the shopping website, to the the internal support website. We have to expose only one unified endpoint. So to expose that one unified endpoint, we need to define a API gateway. Even we having the other advantage of the API gateway is that we have to apply the authentication and authorization at one place. I don't need to write the code for authentication, authorization at each service level. So what are the things are common? What are the things we are willing to apply across the services? We can apply at one place. That is a API gateway. That is also the benefit we having over there. So let's me add the things over there. I'm just adding here a JSON setup. And the Ocelot gateway having a official document as well. You need to just go through it. So we having the Ocelot API gateway documentation, which you can refer it. So this is my Ocelot documentation. I can refer, just refer the official website. Here I'm having the setup like this way. So I need to just copy this basic setup detail and I will just change it. So here we having the downstream part template. Downstream means the backend service you're going to expose. Then we having the upstream. Upstream means how you're going to expose it to the front end. Down means backend service you're going to access. Upstream means how you're going to expose it to the outer world, that we need to mention. So in our case, we having a backend service. Now let me look at it. It's just a simple backend service where we having a weather forecast. I'm not adding any database. I'm just simply creating it to deal with the things. So let's do one thing. Let me quickly set up my first backend service. Then I will access through my API gateway. So what are the test weather forecast it is having? I'm deleting that simply. Now let me create here a data access layer over there, so that we having the things for it. So what I'm doing here as a best practice, you should create a separate data access layer. But for the time being today, I'm putting the everything at one place. So here I'm just adding here, I'm just using the EF Core Power tool. If you are aware of in Entity Framework Core, we having a tool EF Core Power tool. Using that, we can follow the DB first approach. Many people are not aware of we having a tool. Using that, we can follow the DB first approach. They might be following still the code first approach. Trust me, it is not needed. Unnecessarily, you're making the things complex. So exactly, I'm just using here the code first approach. And this is my database connection already made to the catalog service. I'm going to pick that. And we will generate the table based classes. So what are the tables we have inside the database? For all the tables, the entities will be generated automatically. So we having two tables, I'm going to import them. I'm going to define my context name. So context name is fine. It's a catalog service context. Name is also fine. Then I can define the path for the entities. So what I will do here, I will add here a database folder. Inside the database folder, I will add a folder for entities. And inside the entities folder, I will add all the entities which we are creating for the categories and product table. So corresponding to category and the product table, I'm going to put the things inside this folder over there. Then let me use the advanced option where I'm using the path to keep my DB context file. So DB context file I will keep inside my database folder. I'm putting there. Now click on the OK button like this way. So this is my folder where I'm keeping the entities. This is my namespace. This is my context name. I'm adding the thing. Just add it now here. So what will happen behind the scene? It will create a database folder. There it will add the entities folder to add the entities corresponding to each the database table. Then I will have a DB context file where it will add the reference for the categories, where it will add the reference for the product, so that I can perform the database operation using my entity framework coding style. This is the thing is going to happen over there. And here we are following the DB first approach. So this is my database folder. Then we having the entities, then we having a context file. So this code is auto-generated using the EF Core Power tool. So we are following here DB first approach. Now let me quickly create here a controller where I will write the things here. So I'm just going to quickly create a controller, a controller for product. I'm adding here. I'm just adding here a controller. It would be here a API controller. So let me add here a API controller. And my API controller name is here. Let's say I'm adding here a product controller. And here inside my controller, I will have the multiple action. So I'm just going to change the routing. So I just change the routing here. Then I'm adding here a constructor. And I will use here the catalog DB context. It would be here catalog service DB context. So inside the database folder, if you will see, my context name is catalog service context that I'm going to use here, catalog service context. I'm going to use as a database. So here I'm not following any repository pattern, any service pattern. I'm directly writing the code, because when it is coming to writing the code in the real life, you should implement the repository pattern, you should implement the service pattern. But for the time being, I'm not following them because I have to show you the things how we can quickly make it. In the real life, we will follow the repository pattern, the service pattern to deal with it properly. Now let me define here the database connection string. So I'm adding here the connection string as per my system. So we having the DB connection, and as per my system, I will add here the connection string over there. So as per my system, I'm going to add a connection string. I will mention my database name. So database name is here. It's a catalog service. So I'm putting here catalog service is my database name. Now let me define the same thing inside the program.cs file. It will be a builder.services add DB context. Then we having catalog service context. Then I will pass the connection string for it. So I'm defining it here now. So it would be here options dot use SQL Server. Now builder.configuration and then get the connection string over there. So my connection string is DB connection. I'm going to put it over here now. And now let me first test my catalog service. And this is a project we have built based upon the .NET 9. Starting from the .NET 9, Swagger support is not there. Even it will not open any browser. So now let me make the option true to open the browser. Otherwise, I will not get the output. I'm just opening it. Now let me test the catalog service for it. Simple. Of course, in the actual class, I will write the code using the clean architecture. Because without the clean architecture, you will not make it better. It is only for demonstration purpose. I'm just showing you. In the actual class, it would be using the clean architecture. I'm just writing the things like this way. So we having the API, then we having the product, and then we having the get products over there. Let's say get products. If everything is fine, I should get the data. So this is my API where the data is coming. It's a independent API I'm testing. I have to now include it with my API gateway. So what is the port number? Port number is 7277. I just copied it. Now come to the Ocelot API gateway where I will mention it. 7277. Then what is the local host? Is my host because I'm running everything from the local machine. What is the backend service URL? It is a product. Then we having the action name. So action name can be anything over here. So here I can mention to accept any action name. There is a one option we having in the Ocelot API gateway. It say everything. I'm putting like this way. And how you're going to expose it outside world. So to the outside world, I will expose it with the name of the product. Then I will have any action name. So I'm putting here everything. And how many verb you are willing to apply. Sorry, you're willing to allow. So I'm going to allow here get verb access, post verb access. Then we having the put verb access. This way we are going to make it allow. What is my API gateway base address? So API gateway base address you can see from here. It is a 7132. This is my API gateway base address I have mentioned. I mentioned it now. Then it's a program.cs file where we did the things. Now I need to run multiple projects together. I need to run the API gateway as well as I need to run my catalog service also. Now let's go to the properties option. Then I'm going to set the multiple starter project. It's a catalog service and it's a Ocelot API gateway. I'm running both of them together. Now run the application. If everything is fine, we did the setup properly. So it should run two browser. It's a two browser is coming. So this is my API gateway 17132 and one is 7277. So in the 7132, you have to just access it using the product. Then we having the get products. If everything is fine, this is my API gateway 1. If you want to see the actual one, so actual one is coming like this way. This is actual API. So side by side, I'm showing both of them so that you having the clarity. This is coming through the API gateway, right one. On the left side, we having for actual API. So actual API I'm calling like this way. So actual API address is different. It's a backend API. This is my API gateway. Now this API gateway URL I will give to my front-end application. It can be a mobile application, it can be the website. From there I will consume it. And if you're looking for it, how to actually write this code properly with the proper architecture. Let me show that code base also. So that you having the clarity. So when it is coming to building the project with the proper architecture, I'm just showing the example. We are building a project in a recently going on batch of microservices. So there is a one batch I'm taking in the weekend, and that one batch of the weekend code base I'm just showing you. So this is the one we are building. It's a just a project. I'm just going to open it. It's a desktop code. It's a November batch. So we have to write the code properly like this way. So we having the domain for order service. Let me show the example of the catalog here, which example I just took. It's a domain layer. in the clean architecture, we having the infrastructure layer, we having the application layer, then we having the API. So this way, one catalog service code you have to write using the clean architecture by using the different layers like this way. And in every service, we are implementing the same thing. This is for order service as well. This is for payment service. We having the authentication service. We having the card service. We having the stock service. We having the shared project as well for the state machine because we have to implement the Saga pattern over there. This is the API gateway where we added the Docker file as well. This is my front end for the support. This is my the web because we having the two side of the web UI. One website we having for the support and another website we having for the end user. This is we having the things. So we have to deal with the things like this way. So when it is coming to building the project, it is now like this way here, simply. And when it is coming to the the clean architecture, we have to think about the domain layer, application layer, presentation layer, and the infrastructure layer. And how the communication is going to happen. The communication will be there, presentation layer to application layer to domain layer. This way we will have the data flow. And what are the things we should keep inside the domain layer? Inside the domain layer, we should keep the business entities, enums, constant, repository interfaces. Then we having the domain events. Inside the application layer, we need to add the application services, validation, service registration. Inside the infrastructure layer, we should add the repository, implementation, DB context, logging, mappers, cache. We having the external services and providers like APIs, email, messaging, payments. For the presentation layer, we will have these many things. So we having the things for like this way when it is coming to the clean architecture in the project. This we need to set up the CI/CD pipeline because when it is coming to microservices, all the principles, as I mentioned in the beginning, you have to think about all the principles. Without the DevOps, we cannot think about the microservices. So we need to know how to set up the CI/CD. So CI/CD we are going to set up here using, of course, Azure pipeline. We have been in Azure DevOps. When it is coming to infrastructure, we need to use the containers. As a containers, we will use the Docker for making the image of each microservice. And for the deployment, means for running all these containers together, we should think about the cluster management. So for that cluster, we will use the Kubernetes over there. So think about the cluster here where we having a backend services. They're using the backend Azure services over there. And here using it's a Kubernetes cluster. Using the DevOps, we do the deployment like this way here. So it's not a straightforward deployment. What we have to do here, for each microservice, we need to create a Docker image we need to create. That Docker image we are pushing to the ACR, Azure Container Registry. So every time when your sprint will be finalized or your service is ready to publish, we have to push that image to the ACR. Then when it is coming the deployment from the Azure Container Registry is a full form for the ACR, we need to pull the image. It's a Docker pull command. Through the Docker pull command, we will pull the image, then we will push to the this cluster, the Kubernetes cluster that is running in Azure cloud. Then inside the Azure cloud, we having a provision to define a ingress controller because what are the traffic is incoming, that incoming traffic we have to reroute to the backend services. So I need to introduce the ingress. So here in place of ingress, we are using the Ocelot API gateway. So through the Ocelot API gateway, that ingress we are going to manage. And behind the scene, we having a catalog service, we having the authentication service, we having the order service. They're going to use their own databases like this way. So this is the way we having the things to deal with it now. And when it is coming to the CI/CD, I'm already having a setup for the CI/CD over here. Of course, I cannot do in one go. I'm just showing the setup for the CI/CD so that you having the clarity. What is the project we are building? how we can create the CI/CD for them. So you have to log into the official Azure DevOps website. I'm already having the account. Let me log in using my different email ID. I think it is taking me through the different email ID. So I'm having this email ID. Let me log in there. And there I'm having the setup, which we will do there. So it is going to redirect me to the Azure official website for the DevOps. So we having the same setup eShopflix. So here we having the pipeline. I'm just showing the example. There's a catalog service pipeline is there. We have to set up how to deal with it now. And in this pipeline, we have defined the steps. So it is going to deploy the thing to the ACR. Then from the ACR, we are putting the things. Then we are pushing the things finally to the AKS. So these are the releases we having for the AKS level. So the AKS level, the deployment has been done. So you need to set up the things like this way. In the Azure DevOps, in the free subscription, you can do with it. You don't need the things over there. But when it is coming to the Azure services, make sure you having the Azure subscription. Then only you able to create the AKS, you able to create the Azure Service Bus, Azure SQL One. DevOps we can use in the free subscription. That is fine. But Azure we need it. There are two subscription, one subscription for Azure services, another subscription we having for DevOps. So DevOps is free, you can use, but for Azure you must have the subscription. So this way we having the end-to-end setup over there. So think about the project like this way, as I mentioned. So if you're thinking to build the microservices, so think about implementing these microservices pattern, like how to implement the decomposition pattern, as I mentioned already. So here we have to decompose our system into the various services. What should be the process to decompose it? Then we should think about the integration pattern where we having the API gateway. Then we should think about the communication pattern where we having the synchronous communication, we having the asynchronous communication. We need to think about it. Then we need to think about the database pattern, like database per service pattern, shared database pattern. We having the Saga pattern where we having the workflow like this way. Then we having the CQRS pattern where we are separating the command service from the query service. Then think about the cross-cutting concern patterns where we are using the service discovery, where we are using the rate limiting pattern, where we having the observability patterns, how to the error logging, how to think about the health check, metric collection, then think about the deployment patterns over there. So this is about the microservices. Microservices is not about just building this project and just setting it. No, it is just a ASP.NET Core Web API you can build for a normal application as well. Microservice is about implementing these many patterns. So until you will not implement all the microservices principles into your application, it is not a microservices based project. And trust me, it is not easy. It's need a lot of effort. It's need a lot of attention when you are going to set up such complex project. Because building the Netflix, building the Azure cloud platform, building the X.com is not easy task. We need a proper understanding of the various practice and pattern, then only we can think about the implementation. Okay. This is the way we having the things now. I hope you having the clarity about it. I'm right. Now let me tell you here about if you're thinking to get a if you're thinking to make a career in 2025, because many people are thinking about what they should do in the 2025 so that they will get a better package as well. They will get a better position also in the current company or in other company. So my suggestion to everyone is nowadays you are living in the age of the AI. So writing the code is not a challenge. Nowadays, a junior developer, even a fresher also can write the code very easily because they having the chat GPT, they having the GitHub Copilot. Even recently, Microsoft made the GitHub Copilot free for VS Code and Visual Studio. If you're not aware of this information, I'm sharing it again. Now the GitHub Copilot is freely available in VS Code and Visual Studio. You have to just create an account on github.com and just do subscribe. So after this free subscription, people will able to write the code with more well-being using the free subscription of GitHub Copilot that is available now for VS Code and Visual Studio both. It is a very good news for every developer. So writing the code is not a challenge. So as an experienced developer, you have to think about a place where the junior developers cannot replace you. Even the expectation of a company from the senior developers is they should think about the architecture, they should think about the scaling, they should think about the system design, they should think about the cloud, they should think about the cloud implementation, they should think about the DevOps. This is the expectation every company is having from a senior devs. So whether you are working as a senior developer, whether you're working as a tech lead, whether you're working as a project lead, you have to think about to become a solution architect because this is the role where you can fit the things as the need of the company. Even this is the role cannot replace by the junior dev because to reach to that level you need experience. Without experience nobody can become the solution architect. So you have to think about the architecture, you have to think about the system design, you have to think about the scaling, you have to think about the DevOps, you have to think about the microservices, you have to think of the containers, you have to think about the best practices. These many things you need to think about. So in the 2025, I'm just giving you a roadmap which everyone must follow if you are looking for a next hike in your career. So the roadmap for the 2025 should be like this way. It is a three-stage roadmap. The stage one, your focus should be on learning the various architecture label patterns like microservices architecture. We having the clean architecture. We having the MVC. We having the MVVM. We having the various patterns like repository pattern. We having the unit of work pattern. We having the service pattern. We having the gang of four patterns. So think about those patterns and practices. Then think about the system design. How to design a system for Facebook, for the Instagram, how to scale the application from zero to millions of user. What are the steps I need to take care of? You should think about these many practices. Solid principle you should need to know, KISS principle you need to know. So we having so many things around patterns and practices. Then only you can think about the software architecture, system designing. Then of course, microservices and containers is the another important part that every senior devs need to know. Because when it is coming to building the enterprise grade application, you have to implement their microservice architecture. You have to use their containers. When it is coming to the automation, when it is coming to the releases and all the things, you have to think about the DevOps. Without the DevOps, you cannot automate the releases, you cannot automate the build, you cannot do the sprint planning. These many things you have to learn. So this is a roadmap you must follow if you're looking for a better hike in 2025. Try to become a .NET solution architect. And when it is coming to the Krishna, Azure at GCP. So my answer is clear over here. If you are a .NET developer, so 80% companies are preferring the Azure for cloud integration. Only 20% companies are preferring the AWS or GCP. So you have to decide you are going to go ahead with 80% companies or you are going to go ahead with the 20% companies. See, as you will include the GCP, AWS, only 20% jobs will be there in the market. If you will include the Azure, you will have the 80% job in the market. And one more thing you must know. Azure is a number one public cloud provider as per the Flexera 2024 reports. So Azure is doing well as compared to others competitor in cloud computing. Even they are doing well in the AI as well. So go ahead with the Azure if you are a .NET developer. If you are a Java developer, go ahead with AWS. If you are a Node.js developer, you can go ahead with either AWS or either GCP. So you should know the combination best which the companies are expecting. This is the expectation we have over there. Clear for everyone? Okay. Now I will tell you about the Scholar Hat. So when it is coming to Scholar Hat, we always believe when it is coming to making a job ready developer, a job ready tech lead, project lead, and solution architect. It is not a easy things because when it is coming to learning, so learning should be a proper and systematic way because what is happening nowadays, the people are learning from the YouTube, people are learning from the chat GPT, they're learning from the articles. But that is a only stage one they are doing. The stage one is about only theory, only knowing the concept. But the stage one will not help you to get the job. When it is coming to getting the job, the company will ask for your experience. The company will ask, have you built any project using the clean architecture, using the modular monolithic architecture, using the repository pattern, using the microservice architecture, where you have implemented all the things together. Their people are blank. They don't know how to build it end to end. So end-to-end project development skill is a must things if you're looking for a job. So at Scholar Head, we have make the three-stage learning. So stage one is about learning the skill. Even when it is coming the skill, it's a complete live session. We never offer the videos where you are just learning from the videos. I'm just taking the question answer. No, we not deliver the thing like this way. It is going to be a complete live session where I'm teaching you or my other solution architect is teaching to you. You asking the question at the same time, you're getting the answer immediately. And we are giving the 1 year live training membership. It means till 1 year you can join all the batch of the same training. It's not a only one batch training because people are offering only one batch training, but we are saying your focus should be on learning. We are giving you the unlimited opportunity. So in 1 year, it's a 1 year unlimited live training program where you can join all the live batch of the same training till 1 year. You're getting the notes because when it is coming to the revision, notes are the very important part of the revision. Yesterday, I'm having a discussion with the student. He just said by referring the notes and by referring the interview question answer, he's able to secure the 50% hike on the current salary only in a time frame of 2 months. Still, he is learning the batch, the course, and he secured a new job as well. So when it is coming to the platform, we have designed a world-class platform where we are going to set up everything for the unlimited live session for 1 year. We having the quick notes, we having the labs. Because until you will not practice yourself, you are not able to build the experience. That is the missing part everywhere. People only learning they are not practicing. They are not building the real world project. We are going to build here three live projects. We are going to build how to implement the things in the real life. As I showed one example, we having another project as well for the system and architecture training program. We are going to learn how to do the modular monolithic architecture using the repository pattern, using the service pattern, and how to do the various system design things. This way you're going to build the project. This is stage two we having. That is about building the experience. Then we have the stage three. Because when you will go for the interview, they will ask the question. You don't know how to answer the question, which type of question are going to be asked in the interview. So we having the interview question answer as well. We having the interview career coaching session as well, where I will let you know how to draft the resume, which type of question are going to be asked, how to do the salary negotiation with the HR, because these are the things people don't know how to deal with them. Even they stuck with many questions which they are not able to answer well. So here you are going to get that thing also. It's a complete three-stage learning where we are giving you under the Scholar App.NET Solution Architect Training Program. And everything is here managed at the LMS. It's not the case, it is on paper, it's on PPT. No. We having everything set up at LMS level. So when you will log into the LMS from the day one, you will get everything. Every access you will get over there. If you're coming to the My Life training, you will get here the access to, let's say, .NET microservices. Just look at that here. It's a live session recording you're getting over there. As I'm taking the live session today, same way you will take the live session. Today, you're not able to ask the question over the mic because we have been around 180 plus people in the beginning. So it is not possible to put everything on the mic, but in the live session, you will be on the mic. You ask the queries, you're getting the answer immediately. It's a communication with the mentor directly over there. What are the code sample we are doing? What are the PPT I'm presenting? You'll be able to download from here. Even whatever the video you are referring, inside the video also you can search, because we are willing to save your time. Our intention is you should not put much time in the learning. If you're going to looking for a specific bite of the learning inside the live session, you can search over there. So the video is available in the script also. Inside this script, you can search a particular question you have asked in the interview. This is the way the LMS we have designed. We having the quick notes, as I mentioned, for the revision purpose. These are the very, very important part, because every time you cannot watch the recording. You have to just quickly revise the things. So these quick notes definitely will help you for quick revision purpose over there. Then we having the hands-on lab, as I mentioned, without doing the practice, you will not get the experience. So we having the hands-on learning where we having every lab having a problem statement and how to complete the problem statement. We having a solution for that. So this is the solution we having for the problem statement, how to build. Because whenever you're working in the real life, your a task will be assigned to you. And task will have a problem statement. The problem statement you have to build. So how to build in the real life, we having through this one. It's a lab, it's a problem statement. You have to build step by step. Project, I have already mentioned to you that project we are building in the real life, so that you will get to know how to set up the thing from the scratch by using all the design pattern practices, by using all the security and all the things we having over there. Then we having the skill test for preparing for interview. We having the interview question answer videos as well. As I mentioned, many people don't know which type of question are going to be asked in the interview, how to answer them. We having everything ready. So this is a world-class LMS we have designed for the developers, for the tech lead, for the project lead and solution architect, so that they can go to the next level in their career. And for joining the live session, we having the live schedule here. You can join from here all the live session. So everything is automated here. You don't need to ask for the any support team, anything. Things are automated over there. This way we are providing the things over there simply now. Now let me make you clear over here This program is covering only three training. I mentioned the first training we having is software architecture and design. It's a program. You can mention .NET Solution Architect, where we are covering the software architecture, patterns, and system design training. Second training we having for .NET Microservices and containers. Third training we having for Azure DevOps. These are three training we having. And prerequisite for joining this program is, I'm assuming you already know the ASP.NET Core, you already know the Microsoft Azure. If you know these two things, you're welcome to this program. If you don't know these two things, I suggest you we having another program that is a advanced full stack .NET developer. There we are teaching the ASP.NET Core. There we are teaching the Angular. There we are teaching the Azure developer. That is a separate program we have. If you don't know these things, so please join the advanced full stack .NET developer program. Anything else, Ravinder? I given the answer to everyone. And the batch for this .NET Solution Architect, we are going to start. This is a batch we're going to start from the coming Sunday at 8:30 p.m. IST. We are going to start a new batch. So from day after tomorrow, we having a new batch in the evening 8:30 p.m. IST. We are going to start where we are going to start with microservices. This is a batch, and the complete duration for the program is 6 months. This time it is 6 months because right now we are running a year-end sale, and with the year-end sale, we are giving you one extra training as a bonus.